awesome. You guys make this or find this? Very cool. All 3D printed, clearly this one. That's sick. This is actually awesome.
There you are. Welcome to 3D Printing Nerd Studios. And it is true. I did a 3D printing project with the Seattle Mariners. What? You're in 3D Printing Nerd Studios, proudly powered by PCBWay. PCB, CNC, and 3D printing. It's all at PCBWay.com. And 3D printing is what we're talking about today because the Seattle Mariners baseball team reached out. They had an idea for a commercial to air on television and online, and they needed some help creating some props. And what better way to create some props for film and television than with 3D printing? Major League Baseball teams, typically during the spring training season, create these fun, whimsical commercials to air during the beginning of the season to sort of help sell tickets to the ball games. This year, what they wanted to do is take that viral sensation, the torpedo bat.
The torpedo bat.
Torpedo bat.
The torpedo bat.
From last year and make some improvements to it. They landed on 4 bat types that they kind of wanted made to be a part of this commercial that they wanted to air. The first one was a fat bat, and it was the torpedo bat, but fat. The next one was fashioned from Thor's Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, and the Mjolnir would sit atop the torpedo bat to, I guess, bring godly powers to the player. Next was a hockey bat. It was part torpedo bat and part hockey stick. And finally, the 4th bat was going to be a palm tree bat. So bat, palm tree with palm tree fronds. Knowing what these bats were going to be used for, the goal was simple: high quality, filmable, and able to be held and swung by a player. Now, not swung at a baseball. Baseball players taking a full swing would probably cause things to just disintegrate, very specifically just for show. Now with the project defined and the 4 bats spec'd out, it was time to reach out to the magical and handsome Bill Duran of Punished Props. Along with being a world-class prop builder and maker, Bill is also fantastically talented in Fusion 360. Bill went through and catted up all 4 bats in various ways, and we would send off images and renders of these bats to the Seattle Mariners team so that they could give some notes on them. As an example, the hockey bat was a left-handed hockey bat because they were anticipating the bat being used and shown off by a player that was left-handed. Once the Seattle Mariners approved the renders of the final CAD drawings, Bill was able to cut them up into the sizes I needed to throw onto the various 3D printers that I was going to use. Tall parts were going to be a problem, and so things had to be cut into the build volume that I needed. Some of the big bat was printed on the XL 3D printers. The H series handled a lot of the rest, like the hockey part of the hockey bat and the mid parts of the palm tree bat, etc., etc. The Mjolnir parts were printed on the X1 carbons and in halves. So Mjolnir was split in half this way and then printed this way with some organic supports. And then we were able to put it all together. It was going to work out just fine. During the printing process, I learned a lot. I was able to create some things in a way that was going to make them a little bit tougher. Example, the fronds of the palm tree are printed on the Formlabs 4L with their Tough 2000 resin. That was the same resin that I made the hammer and nails out of. It's slightly ductile, but it's very strong. It's not going to break as easily as, say, PLA. In thinking that, I also made all of the handles where the players were going to grip out of that same Tough 2000. Every single bat had 1/2-inch EMT metal tubing running through it. That's the same metal tubing that I've used in my RepRap projects where I can mount filament on the wall. And finally, as part of the design, that Bill Duran, he is magical because he was able to make the holes for the EMT tubing to slide through in a very specific way that I think is great for 3D modeling. Rather than making the hole for the EMT tubing to fit through perfect around the circumference, the hole is just slightly bigger to allow some clearance. And then in 4 different spots, there's a little bump that would hold on tight to the EMT tubing. So Bill came up to the shop and we started to put the parts together. Once Bill was here, we got straight to work, and the process we were gonna follow is using a 5-minute epoxy for all of the bats. What we would do was slide in the EMT tubing that was cut to lengths into each one, and then use a rubber mallet to kind of get it into place.
Wait.
One of the problems though was that if a bat had 3 pieces, you had to be able to get a piece midway down some EMT tubing. I didn't have a hammer with a hole in it. So what you can do is make a cutout of something that you can then pound on the side that's just slightly larger than the EMT tubing. And we had an old 2x4 that we took a drill to get pieces into place.
Genius.
The bats were all going together incredibly well. The 5-minute epoxy worked great. We put it on the EMT tubing. We put it in between the layers. We would cinch things together. 5 minutes later, we would be able to hold it.
Call my shot! Yeah, there. Oh, jeez!
The big bat went together pretty easy. The Mjolnir, the Thor bat, because those were in 2 parts, we got those together. They were holding on nice and tight. And then we were able to put in the EMT tubing. And so that was kind of like a 2-part process there. The hockey bat was pretty self-explanatory. That went in pretty easy. And the palm fronds were kind of interesting. So we had to put together the tree part of the bat, and then the fronds, once we got all of the supports off, or at least most of the supports off, what we could find, those had to be epoxied together, and that had to be sanded a bit. It actually had to be sanded a lot in order to fit in. With the bats together and the epoxy fully cured, they were transported down to Bill's house because Bill has, I think it's called an HPLV gun, high pressure, low volume. The bats needed to be sprayed with a catalyzed primer. And this primer is great because the catalyst means it sets really, really quickly. You don't have to wait for a paint to dry. Once the primer was on, it was time to sand and sand and sand and sand and lots of sanding. It took a while.
I don't like sand.
We wore PPE because you want to make sure that you're not breathing in any of that. Now that all of the bats have been through the sanding process, they were nice and smooth and they're ready for paint, next was the paint. And it was a nice brown paint that we applied. And this was from an auto body shop. And they looked incredible once they all dried. Each bat was hung up on a rack using a clamp towards the handle, and that part didn't get fully painted, and it wasn't a problem because bats have bat tape or grip tape around them, and that's where the grip tape was going to be. And since we knew that, we could use clamps to hold the bats in those areas because that wouldn't be seen.
Hey, Bill, it's done!
So done.
It's done!
Despite the short timeline.
Less than a week.
Yeah.
Less than a week.
And some fun challenges along the way. We got it across the finish line. Across home plate. There you go. There you go. Oh, there you go.
And with the paint all dry, it was time to get a really big box and pack them up because I was going to personally deliver these to the Mariners spring training facility in Peoria, Arizona. Imagine me holding a box as big as me walking through the airport.
Perfect!
Once in Arizona, it was almost time to get these out of my possession. So in the morning, David and I brought this big box to the Mariners spring training facility. And then I opened it up.
So this is the door bat.
And I remember as I took each bat out and handed it to these people, they would grab it with these wide eyes and these giant smiles. And they're like, this is amazing. Wow.
This is actually awesome.
These aren't 3D printing people. These aren't prop people. These are baseball people. And for me to showcase something that's been 3D printed and properly finished and properly assembled with a metal rod, and the Mariners staff went bonkers for them. And just give me a moment here, because I've been to spring training games before. And I mean, the Mariners are my local team, so I've watched them growing up. I remember standing outside of the Kingdome when it still existed as a small child. Players would walk from the Kingdome to their cars in the parking lot. Randy Johnson, the Randy Johnson, was walking down. And so I had my 89 Upper Deck baseball card. I'm like, please, Mr. Johnson, will you sign my card? And so he took the card and he goes, and he gave it to me. And I'm like, yes.
That's how you do it.
With the bats in the Mariners' possession and all taped up, our friend of the Mariners said, hey, we got you tickets to the game. Just go enjoy the game and we'll let you know when the commercial's gonna shoot. What a glorious day. We had hot dogs, I had a beer, we saw some really good baseball, we had good seats, and then, with my two little eyes, I spy Julio Rodriguez being called out of the game and Randy Arozarena. They're gonna be the ones in the commercial, because they went off, and then a bit later I got a text, hey guys, time to come back. You got this. So David and I get back, and we got to kind of hang out outside the door while they were doing this. But, you know, I could peek in.
Introducing the Torpedo Ultra Deluxe Supreme. It's nice. It's like a turkey leg, huh? Torpedo bat. It's the bringer of thunder, bringer of light.
It's cool to think that this is gonna be on TV. So we go into the room.
To the folks who actually made the bats. Joel, right?
Hey, I'm Joel.
He's the one who made the bats.
Good to meet you, man.
Have you guys ever had anything 3D printed for you, or have you ever played with anything 3D printed?
Honestly, yeah.
And then they gave us each signed baseballs. What an amazing, wonderful, fabulous gift and trip. So that is the story of how the Mariners reached out and wanted some help with 3D printing. And it won't be the last time you see us with the Seattle Mariners organization. We have some more things planned this season, and I'm not going to give it away. So thank you for coming along with me on this incredible journey. A huge thanks to Bill Duran, who is magical and handsome and has some skills that really helped bring this to life. And a huge thanks to the Seattle Mariners baseball organization. I can't wait for the 2026 season. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to hug each other more, fight for a cause you believe in, swing for the fences, and as always, high five.